How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm hot AF. It's in LA. Are you in LA?
I am in LA. I was up at my parents' like quarantine. I haven't seen anyone in like weeks, but it was nice to see them. And driving down, all of this heat came in, and there was like thunder and lightning, which now is everywhere. And it was just like, what is this shit
What
going
is
on?
happening? I know
I
it's
know.
crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Well, did you enjoy the trip? Like, how are you holding up? How's everything going with you?
I'm good. It's very strange times. I will admit to being somewhat of a hypochondriac, but I guess it was good to wrestle with my worst fears at the beginning of this. And then,
Really?
yeah, taking care of myself. It's really the first time in 13 years that I've known the phone wasn't going to ring regarding work, just because everything was so
Right.
shut down.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that kind of it's provided like a really nice opportunity to quiet down and
Yeah.
read and I don't know, have
Yeah.
things become small.
Whatever you do, just don't have, an epiphany and quit acting and go be a dentist or something. You need
Well, that's definitely there have been moments of entertaining similar ideas, but yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to speak with you because um just you have so many things happening. I mean, you've had an incredible year already, and it's everything is rolling out sort of at the same time on Netflix, and it's
Yeah,
wild.
it is wild. It's wild to me. I'm very grateful for the work, and then also so excited to be able to share it at a time where I don't know, I feel like content storytelling,
Yeah.
art, like it's what's keeping us all going in a way. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, just to preface this, I watched Ratched, and it's
Ah,
literally the queerest, most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I
really? Oh, I'm so
yeah,
glad to hear that.
I mean, just down to the colors, like the turquoises and the pinks and the purples. I
Isn't it
mean,
beautiful? And when those, I don't know if I'm supposed to spoil anything or not. Well, you've seen it, but when the washes of color happen with certain
yeah,
emotion, like rising emotions and stuff. The first time I saw that, even in the pilot, the first episode, it took my breath away too.
it's
It's
very Hitchcock.
beautiful. It's
Yeah,
very Hitchcock, yeah, and I think that was obviously intentional.
right,
But it's fun to see how that got how all those sort of allusions to old filmmaking kind of make it into this
right.
very strange world.
It's
Um,
amazing. What was it like reading? I mean, whenever you got the script, did you see what
yeah,
might have been?
yeah, the writing was incredible, and I think for all of the actors, I mean, I definitely enjoyed reading through, getting to get familiar with what I was going to do, but just seeing some of these like longer blocks of texts and knowing who was going to get to say them, it was so fun and shocking. Like I couldn't believe. Am I allowed to spoil anything? I don't know, but episode 6, there's some very strange stuff that happened, and I
Great.
was just reading through the script, going like, "Oh my God, are we gonna do this? We're gonna do this! Like this is pretty audacious."
Yeah,
Um,
it's amazing.
yeah, it was very fun.
You don't get that kind of material every day.
No, no, you really do not.
Yeah, and especially, it's so funny. So a couple years ago, you and I spoke. I think it was during a brief break during your rehearsal period, whenever you were in Boys in the Band,
For the band.
and a specific quote popped out for me then. This is 2 years ago. So much has changed in 2 years. It's wild. Anyway, I think I asked you a question about LGBT visibility, and you said that you want to see a world where LGBTQ people are afforded roles or positions or storylines that are complex and in jobs and ways of being we haven't seen before.
Hmm.
And like interesting how like that's happening today, and you're part of that movement. And it's in Ratchet especially. I mean, their queerness isn't necessarily on display. It just happens to be,
Mm-hmm.
they are.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, without sounding too lofty, what does that feel like to you to be part of this company?
I mean, it's just specifically the company, like being in the company of Ratchet, to kind of be in service of the story, and be in the company on set of these incredible female actors, these actresses, like that. to just get to be a part of something like that is very exciting, and a huge honor for me. In terms of the larger picture, I think the feeling is just one of relief and one of hope. I mean, there's so much more to do in terms of representation, but I, for LGBT folk, for people of color, I mean, what have you, off camera, on camera, but I feel a sense of hope and excitement about my own career, and the careers of some of my peers, and that the sexuality of a character isn't necessarily what's in the foreground or what's completely backgrounded anymore. It's just one aspect of who they are, and that's definitely how the kind of relationship I have with my own sexuality, my own self-identity. And so to feel that reflected somehow makes me feel like I get to be to relax into or become or recover a fuller sense of self, both on camera and then in my own life. Like I've felt, even since seeing Ratched, watching those episodes, I've just felt this sort of sense of relaxing into who I am. Not necessarily because of the work, or because I happen to think the show's great, but just because things feel like they're shifting and becoming more easeful. Yeah.
And it's been really beautiful to watch your evolution. It's crazy to think you came out this January will be 4 years.
Yeah. It actually feels like a lot longer ago, but go on. Like that's a long 4 years. Wow.
Is it right? I mean, so much has happened since then. And I remember it was such a big deal when you came out because, a slew of coming outs happened afterwards. But at the time, it was still it was new to see, especially from a show that was on the CW, Teen Wolf, and just a heartthrob in general coming out was a big deal. I remember that being one of the headlines. It was like, CW heartthrob comes out as gay. But anyway, like you've evolved so much since then as an actor and as a person. I mean, what do you think when you look back to those?
I'm very proud of myself in that it's something that I wanted to do, and it felt like it took time and courage to know that the moment was arriving and that I was going to step out and do that. And I think in some ways you're right. I certainly felt growing up as a young person, before deciding to go into this business and then working in entertainment, that there just wasn't anybody young who was modeling to me, or there weren't a lot of people, young people who were modeling to me that not only could you have a career if you were an actor, but that you would be able to play different kinds of roles. I mean, I remember, of course, there are some heroes who definitely paved the way before me, like Wilson Cruz did this ages ago. So props. But I just got to the point for myself where I said, I feel a sense of security in my career, and more than anything, I feel a sense of security in myself. I wasn't really hiding in my private life, but professionally, I just happened. I just decided, like, the next chapter of my life, this has to be acknowledged and lived out. I sort of forgot the other part of your question.
I did.
Yeah. I mean. I will say I'm intensely grateful. I didn't anticipate, and I didn't know what would happen, but to have kind of other champions in this business who gave me a chance, Ryan Murphy being one of them. I fought like hell to be a part of the boys in the band, but they saw something in me and they let me be a part of it. And since then, opportunities lead to other opportunities. But like we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, I also just started kind of stepping into myself, and I believe when you do that, doors open in a way.
Doors open, yeah. Doors open for you, and it's authentic, and it's interesting. Talking about boys in the band, I watched the screener, and I was completely moved in a way that I wasn't moved when I saw it on stage.
Yeah,
because it's more intimate. I guess you see the you see the nuances. I'm curious, as a character, as an actor, did you find any new discoveries while you were shooting the film version than you did on stage?
Well, it was I wouldn't say it was a challenge because it was so fun. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge moving from a theatrical reality into a cinematic reality. One of the biggest things was that we didn't have an audience and therefore didn't have any laughs to play off of. And as a largely kind of comedic character,
Mhm.
a lot of my timing on stage was dictated by just the energy exchange that was happening between me and the audience, or me and the other actors up there. And so to not have that and to be on a very quiet sound stage, all you really have to trust is the truth. And so in some ways you it's not that you do less, but you trust that you have these specific relationships to statements or
Right.
history or whatever's happening in front of you. Um, and that was, for the first couple days of shooting, something to get used to. But what was really special about it too was that if the coverage wasn't on me, like if I was going to be even in the way of the camera, I could go to Video Village and watch how these performances that I saw hundreds of times on stage were also changing on camera. And just the level of morale on that set, we all got to cheer each other on because we were just seeing how what we created in New York was not only getting another life, but so completely different,
Right.
so completely different.
Yeah.
And that was very exciting and encouraging to
Right.
get to see in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, again, that's not every day that you get a group of queer men in a single cast where everyone is gay or bisexual or queer, and they're playing queer roles. I mean,
Hmm.
you would think that we have like a canon of material, but we really don't. And Boys in the Band is still so timely, even today.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's amazing how the spirit, some awful stuff happens in that play, and these characters are dealing with, pretty difficult circumstances. Being gay in New York City, even in 1968, was awful. You just risked, by being visible in any kind of way, you risked being arrested or named in the paper or completely, rejected by society at large. So I don't want to minimize that at all, but there is a sort of quintessential queer spirit in there that, I've definitely had friends over, um, and too much alcohol around, and the shade starts getting thrown, and it's very funny, but it's very barbed, and sometimes it can go too far. But it's also like this level of play and intimacy that I think is particular to the queer experience, the gay male experience, or all of it. So to see that from 50 years ago and have it feel so immediate is really heartening. It gives you a sense of, I don't know, something that endures.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are such incredible moments where, because of the close-ups, you see the change of pace whenever, like for example, when Zachary Quinto's character is just ripping Jim Parsons' character to shreds, and then at the end, before he leaves, you see a sudden change where it's like, "I'll call you tomorrow," and
By
then
tomorrow. Yeah.
nuance. It's like this is normal. It's all forgiven. We're going to forget it tomorrow. This is just how we talk to each other. But it's interesting because, like, I recognize that as a gay man. Um,
Hmm.
but not a lot of people recognize that. And y'all nailed it. Y'all nailed it. Y'all nailed that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and it's also interesting watching. I've had many conversations with people who've come out over the years, and they say, whenever they do and they're in a play like this or a film like this, just to be able to act authentically in love with someone rather than pretend to
Hmm.
be straight, a straight character, because there's more straight roles.
Hmm.
And so usually when you're playing a love scene with a woman, there's always just a little bit of a wall because it's not real for you, but therein lies the acting, of course, but it's
Hmm.
just a different experience playing a gay role in a love scene. And so I guess, do you
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe some of it is the excitement of the possibility
right,
of something more real transpiring between you and the other actor,
right, right.
which I think is just really, it's like, that's fun and titillating and,
Yeah, yeah.
special to get to do. Um, Something you said earlier, not to drag it back there, but you talked about the canon. And I think what was so cool about this is we definitely as a group went and got into not only the history of the period, but the history of the play. And I don't know about you. I never saw the original Boys in the Band movie by Friedkin, but I read the play in high school and was sort of, it was scary. I was totally out
Right.
of the closet. So I was just reading through this thing, like, what is this? Um, but I think it was a rite of passage for a lot of young gay men to go see the Friedkin movie or to have been exposed to the play. And I think what's exciting about this is to, in some ways, make it more part of the canon or a wider canon, like an American canon,
Absolutely.
and share it with a wider audience. Because I, to, to me, the play just figures so prominently as like a part of my story, and it's such an obvious part of sort of gay culture. But to take it to a wider audience and maybe transmit what you're talking about, like an extra electricity that happens by having an all-out cast, like I think that's tangible. I hope that's tangible
It
and
absolutely is.
visceral
It
when you
absolutely is.
watch it.
I'm curious. I wonder if I can ask you a somewhat personal question.
Yeah.
So you've been really open about your dad being gay as well, and growing up as a teenager with a straight twin brother. Um, although the Boys in the Band, the time period, I think your dad might have missed that period just by a generation or two. But did you have any discussions with your dad um, about the play and just the time period that it was in and his own parallels, I guess?
No, my dad had passed by the time this all started going, which is something I'll forever be a little sad about. But we definitely talked about his personal history, and the how progress has just sort of moved and accelerated through these decades. I mean, in my lifetime, in your lifetime, I'm guessing, so much has happened that has kind of affirmed our existence and our dignity, and has moved us towards lived acceptance. And it took a while for me to really drop into how different that must have been for my dad. That not having that kind of affirmation available in the same ways would have probably been very confusing, and would have made my coming out process all the more difficult and less obvious to myself, if that makes any sense. um
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so in that way, like I thought about him a lot as we were doing this play, and I it was so special for me to do a play that was so meaningful, for me and for him and for our community, to have my first Broadway show be that, and to, in my playbill bio, dedicate the performance to him. So that was how I sort of honored him in the process.
That's incredible. Um, Segueing to the Batman. Uh,
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, holy moly! I mean, talk about like just going from 0 to 100 in like the best possible way. I mean, it's not. This isn't your first role with science fiction or supernatural. Any sort of.
No, but
But
it is a
it's like,
different thing
wow!
altogether.
Also,
Yeah.
you're working with your brother again, which is like rad. So what's that like working with your brother? It's not, it's rare, especially.
It, it is. I think as we've grown up and gotten to do our own things, we just each have more of a sense of our own agency in our lives. And so if the right twin thing comes along and it piques our curiosity or seems charming, like, we'll say yes to the audition. It doesn't guarantee that anything's going to happen. This one, going into it, didn't know it was Batman, so that was sort of a nice
Oh,
nice surprise when you got the phone call. I mean, you always have a sense if there's like a, a mostly untitled project that it's going to be something big. But no, that wasn't like 100% confirmed. So it was just a really nice surprise to go in for something together and then realize that, like, oh, this is,
that's
finally
really
more information is we're allowed to learn more after signing an NDA, and we're going, oh, this is really cool.
a big deal.
Yeah, that's why I'm like a little erratic today. I'm leaving for London in a day and a half and trying to get my life together.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be gone filming that thing.
Wow, that's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so nice to be, have a brother that you can act alongside. Because
Mhm.
oftentimes the industry can be so toxic, I guess. So it's
Hmm.
nice to have that bookend. I mean, has it worked well for you, or have you all gotten in creative fights over?
Of course, we've gotten in creative fights. I think we're each other's biggest cheerleaders and morale boosters on set, but also can end up being unnecessarily critical of one another. Like, what were you doing back there? Like, you have to be mindful of this. What were you doing? What were you thinking? But that's evolved over time, and now it is fun. And we've definitely. I'm so grateful to have gone through this experience. Um, I mean, the past 12 years with him at my side, I can't imagine navigating this business alone, or without my sibling. I haven't had to, and we definitely keep each other real, and
Mhm.
that's great. I'm
Um, it's amazing.
so glad.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, especially just I guess starting in this relatively young, like
yeah.
there's nothing like family. Nobody like a family member who can tell you to calm down or shut
Yeah,
up
or like
or
get your shit together. Like,
get your shit together.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Um, also, okay, so your GLSEN award, you just won a GLSEN award, which was so sweet. Your speech was so incredible and impactful.
Thank you.
I know a
Thank
lot
you.
of people are going to be inspired by that. So I would love for you to talk about what the award means for you personally, and uh, how what it and about how this you mentioned something in a prior interview. I'm sorry, I'm a little stuttery,
Hmm.
but
No, it's okay.
again, it's hot AF.
It's
Uh,
hot AF and it's
it's hot
Zoom AF.
AF. No, but you said you wish that you had someone like you growing up to admire,
Mm.
aspire to. Um, so, what's your message for young people?
Um, I mean, I'd say largely give yourself time. I think we live in such a culture of kind of immediate gratification, or having to have like a very fixed sense of our identity, and we don't have to do that. Of course, first and foremost, I would say lean into love, lean into yourself, and trust that you will have community. I think that's very hard to remember when you feel alone, and have interjected so much shame as a young person, that there's not only a community, there's an amazing community out there, in every part of the country, and really in every part of the world. Um, what's been exciting as I've grown older is having a better sense of how I can contribute, what my lane is,
Mm.
and how to kind of take more actionable steps. And it's why I love GLSEN as an organization. I mean, among all of the many things they do, one of the things that I find very important, other than empowering these incredible students to be leaders in their own schools and communities, is that they're fighting for affirmative, LGBT history to be taught in schools. That's something that I didn't have as a kid, and as I've learned more of my own history, I've been able to take pride in my history, and I think that kind of you know demand for to be part of the American story, and for that to be taught to kids at a young age, like that's something that really moves me. Um, and so, what would I say about what do I think? What would I say to young people about something like that? Is just learn about yourself. Learn about yourself, learn about your history, take pride in it, and you are a part of the human community, no matter what you may have heard that says otherwise.
One quick last question. I
Yeah.
know you have to run, but what would you tell your younger self in 2016? Would you change anything? Would you do it exactly the same?
Um, I mean, I fixed a few typos, but no, it was exactly what I needed to do in that moment, and I would, if I could go back in time, I would just say, bravo. You know, I'm so happy with, and so full. My life just feels so much more full, and not having to hide in any single way. And I probably overshare sometimes now, and I guess that's fine. That's just who I am. But I'm glad to feel fully participatory in the world. And I think that that's what that action was leading me to.
It's amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, bravo to you, and
Thank you. Thank
it's
you.
so good seeing you, and
Likewise.
safe travels, and you know, I can't wait to see you in the Batman. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
And give my love to all the cast. And you know, keep on swimming. I mean, you're just such an inspiration to so many people. So I hope you feel the love.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Well, take care. Be well. Be safe.
Thank you.
See you. I'm sure I'll see
your
you
masks,
hopefully
everybody.
sometime soon. Yeah, wear your masks.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hand sanitizer. Come on.
All of that. Okay, bye.
Bye.